Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Monday, March 13th, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A major bank in Silicon Valley goes under. So why are Republicans, white Republicans, Wall Street Journal, why are they trying to blame this on diversity? Yes, it is beyond laughable. We'll tell you how the shutdown of this Silicon Valley bank is the latest attempt by white conservatives to blame woke for everything. Vice President Kamala Harris not returning the phone calls of Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's trying to apologize after she, let's just say, did not give an endorsement to Harris being on the ticket in 2024. What the hell is up with Democrats and their infatuation with trying to replace Vice President Harris? We'll break this thing down on today's show. Also, remember the Arizona geologist who went missing? He's been missing for 628 days. We'll give an update on the case of Daniel Robinson. Also, the FBI released 2021 supplemental hate crime report showing an almost 12% surge in hate crimes in America. I told you about those white domestic terrorists. Also, the Academy Awards took place last night. A lot of people upset. Angela Bassett did not win. Ruth Carter becomes the first black woman to win 2 Oscars. We'll show you. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel did address the slap that took place last year between Chris Rock and Will Smith. Y'all, it is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, so first Democrats were whining about whether or not President Joe Biden should be on the ticket. Now Democrats are complaining, well, should be Vice President Kamala Harris. Senator Elizabeth Warren did an interview with a Boston radio station a few weeks ago where she was asked the question, and, well, let's just say she sort of created a whole drama by not giving a ringing endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris. Listen.
Really want to defer what makes Biden comfortable on his team. I've known Kamala for a long time. I like Kamala. I knew her back when she was an attorney general and I was still teaching, and we worked on the housing crisis together. So we go way back, but they have to be a team, and my sense is they are. I don't mean that by suggesting I think there are any problems. I think they are.
Well, apparently Warren has been apologizing. She's now placed phone calls to the vice president. The VP's chief of staff has returned the phone call. Harris has not actually returned her phone call. Warren did issue in a statement. This is after the interview with the Boston National Public Radio. Quote, I fully support the president's and vice president's re-election together and never intended to imply otherwise. They're a terrific team with a strong record of delivering for working families. Let's go to my panel about this. Dr. Julian Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies, California State University, Los Angeles. Dr. Amakongo Dabinga, professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University. Renita Shannon, former Georgia State Representative. Okay, I don't understand what the hell's going on here, Julian. Look, I've been saying this for the longest. Democrats need to shut the hell up, accept the fact that Joe Biden, yes, will be 82 years old when he runs. He is going to be the Democratic nominee, period. Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be the VP nominee, period. It's just dumb to me if they're going back and forth on this. That's what it is. Accept it, move on, focus on beating the Republicans next year.
Democrats have a tendency to shoot themselves in the foot. We do it over and over and over again. And this is a prime example of that. Elizabeth Warren didn't need to say anything. All she could say was what she said in her statement. You know, I support the ticket. But instead, she's going down the mulberry bush, and she's really wrong. I appreciate her, from her economic populism, for a number of other things, but I just think this was a wrong statement to make at a time when Democrats are vulnerable, are shooting themselves in the foot. So I don't know why she did it, but she did it, and now she's trying to apologize, and that's called too much, too little, too late. There are a coterie of Black women surrounding Vice President Harris, and we're not fooling with these fools who continue to disrespect her, and that includes Senator Warren. You cannot disrespect Black women and think that it's okay. And so she can say whatever she has to say. The comment was disrespectful, and if I was Kamala, I wouldn't be calling her back either.
It's simply, to me, Congo, a complete waste of time. She is going to be the nominee. And my whole deal is, answer the damn question. It's just like what all these Democrats were asked last year. Will you endorse Vice President Joe Biden? And then people were like, well, we'll see. What the hell are you talking about? Right. This man is trying to be president for his entire career. You think he's going to voluntarily give up the most powerful office in the world? Ain't going to happen. He's running, barring anything health-wise. He's running, she's running. Democrats, suck it up.
And quite honestly, it's really frustrating because it actually is bringing me back to the whole situation with Obama and Hillary when Democrats got into a big fight at the Wardman Hotel and people were talking about, oh, I'm not going to vote for Obama and all of that. And Democrats almost shot themselves in the foot that time, as Dr. Malveaux was talking about. And so we're seeing a situation now where it's not like this is Biden and Harris running for the first time. They are already there. I heard someone talking about, well, Vice President Harris hasn't accomplished much. What is the Vice President supposed to accomplish? What does Mike Pence accomplish when he was Vice President? They're doing all of these digs, and Roland, the Republican Party is so vulnerable right now that Democrats, they're jumping on this nonsense about Biden's age, even though so many young people in the party support a man like Bernie Sanders, for example, while nobody's talking about Trump's age on the Republican side. And they're also looking at whether vice president is going to be dumped going into the second election. But quite honestly, Roland, we have seen this before, and we're going to continue to see it. And what Elizabeth Warren did, she kind of blew the lid off of what many of these people in the Democratic Party are thinking. And I do believe that at the end of the day, this can really cost us an opportunity to really win back the House in the next election if we spend all of this time fighting. She is already there. She's doing an incredible job. And she represents the #1 constituency for the Democratic Party. So putting out any nonsense suggesting that she shouldn't be there, we don't care how far back you knew her when y'all were teaching and all of this, when you were teaching and all of this nonsense, fall in line like the Republicans do going into 2024. But Roland, lastly, I will say, I think they also fear her being the face of the party running for president in 2028. So they're starting to just throw more shade right now, and it's got to stop.
Renita, it's real simple. You can't focus on 28 until you win in 24. So shut the hell up. Put all of your energy into raising money, building awareness, talk about your accomplishments. And the reality is this here, let's just be real clear. Nobody is out there voting for the vice president. They're voting for the president. I don't care whether you're Republican or you're Democrat.
Well, I think that this situation is actually not really about Elizabeth Warren. I think this is about a concerted effort that we've seen from the media to pretty much tell us every single week or every time we see any article printed about Kamala that she's not doing a good job, she's not doing anything, where has she been? I mean, we almost never see any articles about the actual work that she is doing. It's just always a constant stream of chipping away at her and expecting more from her than we've ever expected of any vice president. I mean, to your point, Roland, most people can't even remember the names of vice presidents who have served in the past. And so Kamala has done what she's supposed to do as a vice president. And I really think that this is more of the media just continuing to print things. And I don't know who is exactly behind it. It feels so concerted and so organized. It just really feels like that's what they're trying to do. But I will say this, we do have softness on the left, okay? So Biden does need to do things policy-wise. We cannot just tell people to shut up and vote because that is going to have us lose elections. So there are things that on the policy side that do need to get fixed. We saw what happened with overturning, him working with the Senate to overturn pretty much a criminal justice reform that was done in D.C. So we have real issues that do need to be snaked out. This is not one of them. What VP Harris has done, that is not an issue. And I really wish media would stop with this concerted attack, because it's really showing a black tax on her that we've never seen any other vice president have to deal with.
Yeah, but there are no media attacks if you don't have Democrats who if they stop talking about it, then there are no stories. I mean, that's what the real problem is. And so I just think, to me, it's just dumb. So, like, really move the hell on. All right, folks. Got to go to break. We come back. White conservatives, oh, my goodness. I keep telling y'all while we read my book, White Fear, that now they're trying to blame diversity for the 2 banks shutting down, including one in Silicon Valley. Wait until I show you what was in this Wall Street Journal article. These people are utterly hilarious, as if white men have not been destroying the country and destroying banks all of these years. Well, I'll tell you next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, folks. Also, once you hit the button, share button on Facebook, like button as well, plus on our app. Speaking of our app, download it on the Black Star Network, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Don't forget, you can watch us on Amazon News by simply going to, or say, Alexa, play the Black Star Network. So check us out there as well. And, of course, support us with your resources. Join our Bring the Funk fan club, send check-in money orders, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, and be sure to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at all bookstores, download it on Audible as well. Back in a moment.
A lot of these corporations or people that are running stuff push black people if they're doing a certain thing. What that does is it creates a butterfly effect of any young kid who, wants to leave any situation they're in, and the only people they see are people that are doing this. So I gotta be a gangster, I gotta shoot, I gotta sell, I gotta do this in order to do it. And it just becomes a cycle. But when someone comes around and is making we don't, they don't want to push it or put money into it. So that's definitely something I'm trying to fix too, is just show there's other avenues. You don't gotta be a rapper, you don't gotta be a ball player, you can be a country singer, you can be an opera singer, you can be a damn whatever, showing the different avenues. And that is possible, and it's hard for people to realize it's possible until someone does it.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we featured the brand new work of Professor Angie Porter, which, simply put, is a revolutionary reframing of the African experience in this country. It's the one legal article everyone, and I mean everyone, should read. Professor Porter and Dr. Valencia Watkins, our legal roundtable team, join us to explore the paper that I guarantee is going to prompt a major aha moment in our culture.
You crystallize it by saying, who are we to other people? Who are African people to others? Governance is our thing. Who are we to each other? The structures we create for ourselves, how we order the universe as African people.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm El DeBarge.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, let's just be clear what's going on here. You got this bank that shut down in Silicon Valley. The feds are trying to actually auction it off. But over the weekend, we have seen these conservatives, this Silicon Valley, talk about Silicon Valley Bank, blaming diversity. Now, you had Congressman James Comer on Fox News. Guys, if y'all have the soundbite, let me know, where he was like, I think it was because they were woke. They were so busy focusing on being woke. Just stupid. Just stupid. So the Wall Street Journal actually puts this nonsense in the article. If you want to just see just dumb folk, let me just read this comment here, y'all, which is nuts. And again, I told y'all when I wrote my book, White Fear, what was going on, what was happening, what these people are doing. So they want to blame everything for diversity. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything. So this is what this idiot writes in the Wall Street Journal. Was there regulatory failure? Perhaps. SVB was regulated like a bank but looked more like a money market fund. Then there's this. In its proxy statement, SVB notes that besides 91% of their board being independent and 45% women, they also have 1 black, 1 LGBTQ, and 2 veterans. I'm not saying 12 white men would have avoided this mess, but the company may have been distracted by diversity demands. Really? Now, the person who wrote this, because I think that this was an opinion column, and so I think it's worthy of us telling everybody exactly what his name is, and it is Adam Kessler. That's who this is. That's who the writer is. And y'all, he actually wrote that. Now, mind you, it's not just him, but there are a number of other people out here. Again, as I said, over the weekend, you heard several people echoing that, oh, they were a woke bank. They were a woke bank. This, to me, Omekongo, shows the consistent stupidity of these people. As if we have not seen numerous banks in American history just collapse the economy all because of smart-ass white men or wannabe smart white men. So, I mean, people, I keep telling people, get used to more of this because they want to blame everything on diversity.
Yep. Most definitely. And I see it every company I speak at when I'm talking to employees and they're talking about the issues, people feeling like because they represent diversity in the organization, they are blamed for problems that are happening, this type of diversity fatigue. But what's also shameful is the selective memory and the short-term memory, because as far as I can tell, there wasn't a lot of diversity in 2008 when we had the Great Recession and these banks were being run into the ground and people deemed them too big to fail. Historically, these banks have been run by white men, the majority of white men have run these banks. And so they want to forget that. They want to completely act like none of that ever happened. And really, at the end of the day, they're also talking about the fact that we need to start getting rid of this woke idea, but they never define woke. And that's why every time you say it, Roland, you're saying it in a way like you guys are just fools just by taking this slang term and making it policy. So whatever happens, if there's an issue with the airlines, it's woke. If there's an issue with infrastructure, it's woke. And if it's an issue with schools, it's woke. And if it's an issue with the banks, it's woke. These guys, and just like what we see with the Republicans in the House, all they have is culture wars and slang terms such as woke, Florida, where woke comes to die. They have no real knowledge. So we have to continue to hold their feet to the fire, and we cannot let them forget the past. We can't let them forget that 2008 happened. And again, we can't forget that what about Bernie Madoff? I mean, the list goes on and on about situations in banks and organizations and companies that have failed, that were run by white men and left the majority of people who are part of their company out to dry. And so we have to call it out, because if we don't call it out, who will?
His name is Andy Kessler, Renita, and it's just stupid. And again, these white folks are absolutely crazy. I mean, they just want to throw, oh yeah, it's woke. That's it. It's woke. That's it. Oh, climate change. Ooh, woke. Let's see here. Oh, that's right. The rail car accident in Ohio. Ooh, that was woke. Let's see here. Why did the Philadelphia Eagles not win a Super Bowl? Damn it, they're too woke. These people are nuts.
Absolutely. But, you know, Omekongo hit the nail on the head about what's really going on. I'm going to extend what he was saying, if he doesn't mind. But there are reasons that they are doing this. And the number one reason is because they have the most to lose by not blaming it on woke. Just like Amakongo mentioned, when you talk about diversity and making sure that these boards are diverse, diversity never means adding more straight white Christian men. That's not something that we have too much of anywhere, whether you talk about government, where you talk about these bank boards, whatever it is, that does not mean adding more straight white men. Second thing is that I think they also are trying to distract from the general public, again, looking at these banks fail and watching the government rush to their defense to bail them out. And so what they don't want to have happen is for the general public to get riled up again and realize that banks always want to privatize profit, but they want to socialize losses. And so they have a lot of incentive to pretty much try to distract the public and blame it on anything other than what it actually is. And last but not least, I'm not surprised that folks like Ron DeSantis are blaming it on woke and this guy who wrote the article, because Republicans, that is a part of what used to be a part of their consistent, what they would work for legislatively is to make sure that there are no regulations and that the banks and that everything is allowed to run with unfettered capitalism. Of course, unless you actually need a bailout for something, then it's, hey, let's involve the government more. And so they are the ones with the most to lose in this. And so this is all really just a distraction.
These folks here, Julian, are so laughable because, oh yeah, then I'm not saying 12 white men. First of all, look at the senior leadership of this bank. White men, 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 white men. Oh, but now it's the board. Oh, the board's diverse, so that could be one of the reasons. Go to hell, Andy Kessler.
You know, Roland, the thing about this bank's failure is that they failed because they had poor management practices. So you look at the CEO of the bank, you don't look at the board. What did they do? They lent money, they borrowed money at a very low interest rate, and interest rates rose, so they were losing money. That's number one. Number two, they were heavily invested in the tech sector, and diversify your holdings. They did not do that. They were heavily invested in tech, and as tech got shaky, so did they. And number three, I don't even know where they get this woke stuff from. First of all, the word woke has been abused. It's not whether you're woke, it's what you do when you get out of bed. So all these people talking, we don't like progressives, we don't like diversity, we don't like critical race theory, we don't like black studies, and so we all woke. No. But if you look at this bank and look at what they did, they had poor business practices. And those poor business practices came down and bit them in the booty. Not only did they have poor business practices, but then they put out a call, we got to raise $2 billion or we're going to be in trouble. Well, when you say that, guess what you do? You cause a run on your bank. There were other ways to raise the money if they needed to raise the money, because basically the Fed requires you to have, based on how many loans you have to have so many reserves. And basically they bake their own cake. When they put it out there, we got to raise all this money. Their basic depositors like, oh, wait a minute now, maybe I better move my money. And that's what people did. So this Andy, whatever his name is, he obviously has no discernment and has no economic analytical skills. Because if he did, he would say, why did this bank fail? Had nothing whatsoever to do with any kind of diversity. And again, as both Obakongo and Renita have said, if you look at the history of bank failures, black people have not been running those banks. LGBTQIA people have not been running those banks.
Well, look, here,
about white people, white men to be exact.
Here's a video. Here's a video of Ron DeSantis weighing in. This fool.
But, Governor, I want to get your take on what appears to be another emergency unfolding this morning, and that is around this Silicon Valley Bank and its failure. You took on the insurance crisis in Florida last year, tackling what was becoming a property insurance issue. How worried are you about Florida banks and the potential for a run on these banks with the Silicon Valley failure?
So I don't have any specific information about any Florida bank similar to Silicon Valley Bank, and hopefully that remains the case. Maria, it just appears to me, I mean, this bank, they're so concerned with DEI and politics and all kinds of stuff. I think that really diverted from them focusing on their core mission. I also look at it and say, we have such a morass of federal regulations. We have a massive federal bureaucracy, and yet they never seem to be able to be there when we need them to be able to prevent something like that.
Two things for this dumbass. Ron DeSantis don't know jack about this bank, don't know jack about DEI or anything. Two, the laws were actually loosened under Donald Trump. Dodd-Frank was loosened, making what took place possible. But that's what happens when you read. Y'all, I keep telling y'all what these people are trying to do. They want to attack any advance of people of color in this country, and they're going to continue this nonsense, and we better be prepared for this battle. Got to go to the break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we've seen the headline. Major tech companies laying off. Google, Facebook, Twitter, just to name a few, and tens of thousands have been laid off as a result. On the next Get Wealthy, we take a look at what it means to recession-proof your career in tech. Joining me will be Kanika Tover, and she's going to be sharing exactly what you need to do to turn anxiety into achievement.
Shifting our mindset to thinking that only opportunities exist in big tech is something that we're going to have to shift fast, because there's so many opportunities that are out there that we have to change the way we were thinking about our careers.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
On the next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, just who do you think you are? And maybe more importantly, who is it that you think you're trying to please? The answer to that second question is really wrapped up in the first. Think about that, being the true, authentic you, no matter the circumstance.
But we learn the art of forgiveness, not only of forgiving one another, but forgiving ourselves. And we also learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other.
That's next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Dion Cole from Blackest.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, fam, we keep telling y'all about these hate crimes, and the FBI has offered some details with regards to 2021. It is called the Supplemental Report, showing that hate crimes in the United States rose by 11.6% in 2021. Incidents rose from 7,262 in the first report to 10,840 in the revised version, up from 8,263. The data was released by the FBI in October and contained gaps because only 52% of U.S. law enforcement agencies reported a full 12 months of 2021 information. The Associate Attorney General, Benita Gupta, issued the following statement: preventing, investigating, and prosecuting hate crimes are top priorities for the Justice Department, and reporting is key to each of those priorities. The FBI supplemental report demonstrates our unwavering commitment to work with our state and local partners to increase reporting and provide a more complete picture of hate crimes nationwide. We will not stop here. We are continuing to work with state and local law enforcement agencies across the country to increase the reporting of hate crime statistics to the FBI. Hate crimes and the devastation they cause communities have no place in this country. The Justice Department is committed to every tool and resource at our disposal to combat bias-motivated violence in all its forms. The FBI tracked the 96 cities across 16 states to identify statistically significant trends. Boy, I guess this just sort of blows out the water, Renita, all of these idiots who say, oh no, everything is great and wonderful. Hate crimes or issues of race, it's not a big deal.
Absolutely. And it's actually scarier than we all realize, because the way it works, is that hate crimes are defined in law, but most states, Georgia, for example, and most states in the country, and I'm sure, I don't even know if the federal level actually does this, but most states do not actually define what is anti-Black racism. They don't define what is racism. And so for a hate crime to even be reported and be classified as a hate crime, there has to be something that was involved in the crime that shows that there was a bias against a specific community. So you have things take place all the time that we know, or communities know, that these are hate crimes, but because there was no obvious bias, it's not classified as a hate crime. For example, Emmett Till's murder, the murder of Emmett Till was never classified as a hate crime. Everyone knows that that was a hate crime. And so these numbers are actually low. And so things are actually scarier than what is even being reported.
Look, we continue to explain to people, Julian, that the reality of racism in America is still alive and well. We reported on the DOJ getting convictions. Last week, it was a white man burning a cross in the yard of his neighbors, trying to intimidate them. We can go on and on and on. These things are still real in this country, no matter what white folks say.
Still real, but there's also a state of denial. There's so many white people in particular, but there are others. I mean, you will find some Black conservatives, oh no, are you sure that was a hate crime? Maybe it was just an altercation. The fact is that racism is alive and well, and anti-Blackness has basically increased at an exponential level in the last few years after the Orange Man basically gave people permission to say and do things they would not have said and done before. The FBI report is useful, but will be even more useful will be if the Department of Justice would do a better job at investigating and shutting down some of these hate crimes. I'm really pleased. I think you had, well, I saw Kirsten Clark on somebody's air. I think we had her on, but somebody's air talking about Louisville and the 70 or 90-page document they delivered that talks about the bias and the problems with their police department. But that's the tip of the iceberg. These things are happening all over the country. And the fact is that while people deny anti-Blackness, they revel in the white supremacy that exists. So we've seen, I remember when they said there were Black domestic terrorists. Well, no one has been able to document that, but we do document, and we know that there are white domestic terrorists who basically get a pass most of the time.
Look, these things are still real here on Macongo, and it's important to report the stats, but it's also important for people to understand that hate exists, that the FBI has been clear. The greatest threat in this country continues to be white domestic terrorism.
And let's be honest with the fact that came from the FBI headed by Christopher Wray, who was a Trump appointee. So for people to say this is just a Democratic, going back to our last segment, woke idea, absolutely not. And we have to understand that 65%, and this is where everybody who's like not part of Black America really needs to get on the bandwagon and understand this, because consistently Black people are number one, no matter how much the hate crimes increase. But when you look at the stats, 65% of the attacks were based on race, ethnicity, ancestry bias. So that could be Black, Jewish, Asian, and so on and so forth. But the other 35% of these crimes, Roland, were also related to things related to sexual orientation, related to physical ability, or what people call disability, gender bias, and the like. And we see what's happening with people within our trans community as members of the government of the Republican Party are actively working across the country to ban trans people in every way, shape, or form, or get rid of other things like drag queen races and parties and things like that. So it's beyond, even though we are the number one target and they keep coming for us first, people who have not been fighting actively to stop hate crimes need to understand that it's only a matter of time before they come for your group. Sales of guns within the Asian community started to rise exponentially throughout the COVID pandemic as Trump and his cronies were blaming them for the quote-unquote Kung flu and other type of ignorant terms. Many who I listened to within that community said, we never thought it was going to happen to us. Nobody in this country should feel that they are going to get a pass or that they are going to be immune. Learn from what has happened to us, and let's continue to partner and work together to fight these groups and call them out and make sure that they get prosecuted. Because like Dr. King said, you can't legislate morality, but you can regulate behavior. We need to get them off the streets, incarcerated, in prison, out of their jobs, wherever they are, out there lurking, and come together and fight this, because nobody's safe.
Bottom line here, Renita, that the focus on attacks are going to be about race. Period. It's not. The reality is, it's going to be about race. That's where the attacks are going to be.
Well, and I mean, but to Amakongo's point, we are seeing increasing attacks for the trans community, for LGBTQ community. So like Amakongo said, we're all in this together. We are all, race are some of the oldest attacks. And of course, they are ongoing. And a lot of that is because of the refusal of the DOJ and other federal agencies to really take white domestic extremism for the white domestic terrorism seriously in the way that they should. And the more that we allow this sort of cancer to just fester within our country, the more and more we see that hate crimes will just go unchecked.
Julian, the reason I say race is always going to be at the top, because it is always being here. Yes, you're seeing increases in other areas, but the bottom line is we are the default for America.
Absolutely. Obakongo was right when he points out that there are all kinds of hate crimes and they don't all have anything to do with Black people, but we are America's original sin. And we can go through history. We don't have to call the roll of the recent killings of Black people by police. We can go all the way back to our history. We can look at economic violence and the lynchings that occurred. People have used our race to excuse their ways to oppress. I mean, I'm reading this historical stuff now. I don't know why, just to make myself crazy. But when you look at some of the stuff, the ways that Black people have been treated systematically, and the people who pick those attitudes up and continue to deal with them. So I don't really care that much about old racists. They're going to die. But when you get a 20-year-old, 30-year-old who's talking the same crap that their grandfathers are talking, that lets you know how persistent anti-Blackness is. And it's not just anti-Asian, anti-gay, it's anti-Blackness at the root, and the rest of it, if we're the root, the rest of it are branches on the tree. But they get away with oppressing other people because they get to oppress our people. And we could just, there's so many examples, Roland. You talk about white fear in your book, a great book, by the way. Talk about white fear, but it's more than fear. It's their paranoia. They're afraid that we will do to them what they did to us.
No, that's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. And so, we are seeing these things continue. Folks, remain vigilant and always protect yourself at all costs. All right, going to a break. Don't forget, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, y'all. We should easily get 1,000 likes by the top of the hour. Also, of course, we want you to download our Black Star Network app. Let's move on to hit. Let's try to hit. We're about 10,000 away from 75,000 downloads. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Speaking of Amazon Fire, if you've got Amazon Fire, you can click news and you can see our 24-hour channel, the Black Star Network, right there on Amazon News. You can also, of course, support us. Your dollars make it possible for us to travel across the country. I'm actually in New York City right now, doing the Breakfast Club tomorrow, Ebro in the mornings on Wednesday, talking about my book, White Fear. Of course, you can send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And if you haven't got your book, get White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. You can also download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Eric Nolan.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Again, just a reminder to folks, we're trying to hit 75,000 downloads and get to 100,000. So be sure to download our Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Download on all of those platforms. Folks, pull the graphic up, please. Thank you very much. Download all of those platforms and be sure to get that. And so we want to hit that, folks, as we continue to build our 24/7 Black News and Information Network. All right, folks, let's go to some headlines here. In Newark, New Jersey, they unveil a monument to African-American pioneer Harriet Tubman. The steel 25-foot-tall monument is titled Shadow of a Face, features timelines of Harriet Tubman's life and Newark's abolitionist history with audio narration by Newark native Queen Latifah, who attended the unveiling ceremony last week. This is going to replace a Christopher Columbus statue that was removed in 2020. Nina Cook John, the architect who designed the monument, said that if the statue is meant to evoke feelings of awe, curiosity, and a sense of connection, Newark residents participated in the celebration by buying bricks placed on the monument's wall, which shares their personal stories and how they resonate with the history of Newark. That, to me, is a great idea, Julian. And, of course, hell yeah, replace one of Christopher Columbus who didn't find a damn thing, because you can't find something that was already here.
Plus, he was lost. At the end of the day, the dude was lost. He was a drunk and he was lost. He had no redeeming social value whatsoever except for make Italians feel good. So, bye, Christopher. Hello, Harriet. More importantly, Harriet Tubman, we still don't have the $20 bill that we wanted, that the Treasury passed on, said they were going to do, and then under the Orange Man, they took it away. We can't lift her up enough. She basically led enslaved people out of enslavement. I just got a T-shirt the other day that said, "Don't argue with anybody that Harriet would have shot." And that's just a powerful kind of statement about some of the bickering we have in our community. Some people were leaving enslavement, then they want to go back. And sister said, no, I will shoot you behind. That's the end of that. So this is one of the kind of pieces of news, Roland, that makes me smile. It just makes me say yes. In Women's History Month, with lifting up a Black woman that many have tried to deny, let's get it on.
All right, folks, let's talk about this story here, which is kind of interesting, and that is dealing with Malcolm X. The University of Rhode Island, they removed a partial Malcolm X quote that sparked a student protest. The University of Rhode Island, of course, the quote was on the facade of its Robert L. Carruthers Library. This was after 30 years after members of the school's Black Student Leadership Group protested because the shortened version misrepresented the fuller meaning of the message. The quote on the building was shortened to, quote, "My alma mater was books, a good library I could spend the rest of my life reading, just satisfying my curiosity." The actual quote, which was in the autobiography of Malcolm X, by Malcolm X, as told to Alex Haley, read, quote, "I told the Englishman that my alma mater was books, a good library. Every time I catch a plane, I have with me a book that I want to read, and that's a lot of books these days. If I weren't out here every day battling the white man, I could spend the rest of my life reading, just satisfying my curiosity, because you can hardly mention anything I'm not curious about." University President Mark Parlange pledged to have the quote removed out of respect for the student group, which recently held a 30th anniversary. Quote, "Our university is grateful to those students for their courage, and I'm grateful to today's generation of student leaders who, advocating in that same spirit, continue to inspire our ongoing work to foster a truly inclusive and equitable community." Michelle Fontes, who participated in the 1992 protest, says she was happy about the change, and this is proof the new administration is striving to do better. Well, this is one of those things, Amakongo, where I say, okay, don't just remove the partial quote, put up the full quote.
That's right. It amazes me how, and I've spoken at the University of Rhode Island before, and they've worked, they've made some great strides, but nowadays people are so afraid to avoid teachable moments. And at a university, that should be the number one priority. I remember when the Dr. King statue was being erected here in D.C., and they said, well, they had a quote. They just had the partial quote saying, "I was a drum major for justice or change." And Maya Angelou was like, "No, have the whole thing there." If these quotations are going to speak about our history and speak about who we are, they have to be complete. And this also ties in with the Harriet Tubman story that you just shared as well. Our story cannot be shortened or minimized or hyphenated to look good on a building. Malcolm X is one of our heroes. As Ozzie Davis said, our Black shining prince. And so really at the end of the day, these quotations, they are invitations. They are invitations to learn about the history that so many states and legislators are trying to remove. They are invitations for next generations to really do a better job of understanding these people. And when Jon Stewart talks about America's racial wallpaper as it relates to buildings named after Confederate soldiers and Columbus Day and all of these monuments, we need to continue the fight to replace this racist history that's visual everywhere with stories about our own people who fought to make this country better for everyone. And we can't minimize it by shortening or minimizing the quotations and denying a history that our children and all children are already not getting enough of.
Now, folks, check this story out here. The Biden-Harris administration is looking to update the U.S. race and ethnicity standard. This will be the first time since 1997. The White House Office of Management and Budget is going to host 3 virtual town halls this week. The federal government standards were created to collect consistent race and ethnicity data across federal agencies when handling censuses, national surveys, and application forms for government benefits. Some advocates have been pushing for combining the race to address confusion and conflating the population of one ethnic group under the 1997 standards, which encourages people of Middle Eastern and North African or MENA groups to identify as white, and some advocates have called for eliminating the terms white and black altogether. The White House's Offices of Management and Budget will decide on new classifications next year. Your thoughts, Renita?
Well, somebody who has a sociology background like myself, this is really important, and I support that they are looking at revising these categories. And the reason why I say that is because the only way that you can actually track discrimination and bias that happens in the workplace, or, for example, in receiving government benefits, is you have to track it with data. And so it's very important that we continue to track which communities are receiving, being charged higher rates for loans, for example, which communities are facing different disparities, it's very important that we have correct data so that we can work towards this equity and justice that we're saying that we're about as a country. I mean, this is an example of actions needing to match rhetoric. And so I'm glad to see this. I'm sure that this is going to make the heads of conservatives pop off. As I saw in one report discussing this, folks were saying, let's just get rid of all the categories. Well, if you get rid of all the categories, there's no way to track discrimination, which some folks would like for us to stop tracking that because they just want everybody to shut up and be quiet and move past it. And so these things are really, really important when it comes to making sure that all communities are being treated fairly. And of course, with Black folks having had the most discrimination, faced the most discrimination in this country, we have a long ways to go to make sure that every single part of our life has equity in it, just like the rest of the country.
It is, I think it's important for people to understand, Juliana, a lot of people really don't understand how so much is decided when we talk about government programs, we talk about resources, when we talk about National Institutes of Health, when we're talking about, yes, the census, where that the racial data matters, because when you also are talking about racial data, you're also talking about class data and where resources are going.
A lot of people say you can't miss what you can't measure, but we have to measure what's going on in our country in terms of not only race, ethnicity, gender, class. We have to be able to measure that. What we know for sure, Roland, is that when we have the census data, it affects allocation. When you have a census undercount, that undercount means underfunding. And so it's important, and a lot of people say, I don't want to get counted. Well, you need to get counted because it does make a difference. But there are many people who would just be in denial. This has been a long-term thing that Republicans have attempted. Going back to the 1980s, I recall, unfortunately, I'm that old, to recall many times when they've attempted to stop collecting race data just for years because Ronald Reagan, he said we didn't want to measure our differences. And there was a big fight to stop collecting that kind of data. The data is important. It lets us know where we are. It lets us know about things like poverty, differential poverty, income, differential income. Tomorrow is Equal Pay Day, which means if women, they worked until tomorrow, they get the same amount of money that a man earned last year. What's wrong with that data? Number one, when is white women's Equal Pay Day? And when is it for Black women, Latina women, and for women of color, it's way further down the calendar. For American Indian women, it's all the way down to like November. So, but if we didn't have that data, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't be able to measure gender discrimination in the workplace. So it's not just the macro data, it's the micro data and the whole issue of disaggregation.
All right, hold tight 1 second, folks. We come back. We'll talk Angela Bassett. Did she get snubbed at the Oscars? Ruth Carter makes history at the Oscars as well. That and more right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
A lot of these corporations or people that are running stuff push black people if they're doing a certain thing. What that does is it creates a butterfly effect of any young kid who, you know, wants to leave any situation they're in, and the only people they see are people that are doing this. So I gotta be a gangster, I gotta shoot, I gotta sell, I gotta do this in order to do it. And it just becomes a cycle. But when someone comes around and is making other, we don't, you know, they don't want to push it or put money into it. So that's definitely something I'm trying to fix too, is just show there's other avenues. You don't gotta be a rapper, you don't gotta be a ball player, you can be a country singer, you can be an opera singer, you can be a damn whatever, you know? Showing the different avenues, and that is possible, and it's hard for people to realize it's possible until someone does it.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan.
Hey, I'm Amber Stevens-West.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, Courtney Smith has been missing from Gary, Indiana since January 5th. The 18-year-old is 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighs 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Courtney Smith should call the Gary, Indiana Police Department at 219-881-7471, 219-881-7471. Folks, we did the story previously about this young man, David Robinson, first of all, Daniel Robinson, and how he has been missing. He was a geologist who was missing in Arizona. Now, his dad, David Robinson II, has just been on a focused path to find his son. He's been missing for 628 days. Now, skeletal remains found in a remote desert area of Buckeye, Arizona, fuel speculation that they belong to Daniel Robinson, who disappeared on June 23rd, 2021. Well, they do not. So here for an update from South Carolina on the search for his son is David Robinson II, president and founder of the Daniel Robinson Foundation. Glad to have you back, David. Unfortunately, you still are don't have the information that you need. When we last talked, I remember asking you specifically, what type of support had you been getting from the company that your son was working with? Because there were several white workers he was out in the desert with, correct?
Well, actually, there's one worker that he was out in the desert with that particular day. That is something typical of that kind of job. However, yes, he's the company itself has not done anything towards actually doing their own searches to locate my son. He's on the job, of course, and that's one of the things that started off initially was one of the problems in this whole case.
So, for folks who were not watching then. Describe exactly what happened. What do they say happened with your son? That what he left on his own accord? Please explain to folks what they say took place.
Well, you know, the only person that see my son, he was out at well site waiting on my son that morning. My son went to one well site prior to going to the second well site. He's a field geologist. Go out to these well sites, meet one representative. The one representative said that my son met him out there on the side of the road. My son followed him into that desert. They went 1 mile west, 2 miles north to get to this well site where they will be completing their job. According to that guy, he said my son, they reached there at 9 o'clock. By 9:15, my son waved out to him, disappeared in the desert, have to never be seen again. Almost 30 days later, my son's vehicle showed up farther into that remote part of that desert and ravine. Everything on his body was lying in a pile 3 feet away from that vehicle, but my son has not been found since.
And that is what is still so strange, how his personal effects were found.
That's right. You know, the cell phone, his work computer, for instance, his wallet, his keys to his apartment, things like that was found in that vehicle. Case of water. It's 118 degrees that time of the year in the summer. Two cases of water in there untouched. Things like that. So yeah, it was a really, really strange episode in that part of the case.
Questions from my panel. I'll first start with you, Amakongo.
I remember the first time I heard this story, and as a father as well, it continues to break my heart. What I didn't pay as much attention to as I am tonight is the fact that the company refused to help. What reason could they have possibly given for that? And at this stage, is there pressure that we could be putting on the company to get involved at this stage?
Well, that's like you said, that should have been done at day one. That's one of the things that we discuss as a family with that company. They have money, they have resources. They should have been out there for the employee to actually put resources out there in the desert to locate Daniel. Of course, being in South Carolina, away from Arizona, over 2,000 miles away, I was reliant as a parent on law enforcement. Law enforcement failed. They denied the helicopter search that I requested for them to go out into that desert. They waited almost 3 days later when my auntie from Philly somehow convinced them to put a flight out there in that desert. But that's too late. Those efforts to locate my son from the job and also, as well as the law enforcement agencies was a little too late, because we already know that first crucial moments makes all the difference in the world. I would not be still searching for my son in my beliefs if they would have acted really quickly.
Rita.
Yeah, just a couple questions around what happened. So I heard that the person who works for his same employer said that they saw him around 9:15, then they didn't see him anymore. But did anybody else report having seen him after that person initially saw him?
No, not at all. My son, he's a field geologist. He go out to various well sites, and the way he get his assignments, he just leave his home, look on his work computer. They give him assignments. They gave him 2 that morning. One to go to a well site off of I-10, the other in Buckeye, Arizona. The other was off I-10 as well. But this one, the second well site, he was meeting one representative from a company called Weber, a separate company. They supposedly have never met before. First time seeing each other. My son met this gentleman out there, this guy out there in the side of the road there, like I said, and following him into this well site. This whole narrative, the story, everything about the story is based on one person's word.
And was that person investigated?
Should have been. One of the things that I have done as a father, you can imagine, the first thing a father would do in my situation is to, this guy tell me my son just walked off. That's unbelievable. I know my son, despite of some of the stereotypes that of Black men. I've been there from day one of my son's life. I've been a single parent. I was definitely wanting to get out there and make sure my son was safe. But I hear that story that I heard from law enforcement from this guy at the well site. I didn't believe it. I needed to go and look this man. He had to look me in my eye and tell me the same thing. He eventually started that way in this conversation when I met him on the 28th of June, 2021. He started off exactly verbatim, exactly what the cops said, and then after that, he started changing his story. He knew the cops were going to come look into this story. It was going to go national, is the way he put this thing. And as well as some of the other extra steps that he did that was far-fetched from a person who's really so-called concerned. One of the biggest part that was a giveaway to me is the fact that if you're very concerned, all you had to do is make a simple phone call. Those things wasn't done, as well as his storyline did not match my son's phone records. Law enforcement know all these things, and despite of all of that, they hold his story, give it weight.
Julian.
Sir, first of all, we're very sorry that your son has gone missing, and we hope that, he will be found. Secondly, however, the company that he was working for, we need to know their name. They need to be sued. They were derelict in their duty towards an employee. And so they need to be sued. And then thirdly, this person who had this report that seems to be very questionable, he needs to be fully investigated, and that doesn't seem to have happened. So I'm just hopeful, and what was the name of the company? Maybe we can think about boycotting them or putting the word out. I will say this, if Black folks are watching this and your child is a geology major, they don't need to go there. They don't need to work there because we know that they don't value their employees.
Well, it's called Matrix Southwest Groundwater. They also call themselves Matrix New World. It's an engineering company. What my son's job is to in Arizona, for instance, they have to have a certain amount of groundwater to build a community. That groundwater have to produce at least 100 years of water. Those wells, each community have to have these wells. My son is a scientist. He's a geologist. His job is to help determine if these groundwaters can produce that 100 years of water. Very crucial. The same area that my son was doing his work in is the same area that the former governor been hiding those water reports that do not have enough water in that ground to produce, to support a new community that's building in that area. That's the reason why my son was out in that area to check the groundwater to see if this community can be built. Billions of dollars out the Howard Hughes Corporation. But of course, once those reports came out, we found out that Daniel's those things that he had to do out there support that it was no water, not enough water to support those communities. So there's a lot of things like that with that company itself. Like you said, my son was working on the company. He's working on that day. He was sent out to the well site by the company, and not one ounce of money went out towards producing helicopter flights that I have to do myself. I had to charter helicopter flights, had to produce my own investigation as well as searches for my son. I did 48 weeks of searches out there, covered 35,000 acres of land with volunteers. Not one time a dime been given from law enforcement to help. Those things came out of a GoFundMe, out of the generosity of the people in the neighborhoods, in the communities, as well as my own pocket. But we also produce human remains while we're out there, things that law enforcement should have been doing, finding human remains, bringing closure to other families, and finding clues about my son's case. So those things have been efforts that I've been doing from day one. Like I said, it's almost going on 2 years now, and I'm still still working it.
If folks want to support you in what you're doing, where should they reach out to you?
The way you reach out to me is go to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. That's pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. There's other ways to help Tab that you can help that way, as well as the GoFundMe is there. Also, you have the tab if you guys want to do one of the things that's very crucial for me is getting the word out about my son's case. I have a robust flyer distribution program. Go to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. There is a PDF there if you want to print those flyers out yourself. Also, you can reach us at pleasehelpfinddaniel@yahoo.com and request those flyers, and we'll send them out to you.
All right, then. Well, David Robinson, we surely appreciate it. Thank you very much, and good luck as you continue to search for your son.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it.
Folks, going to a break. When we come back, we'll talk Angela Bassett and the Oscars, Ruth Carter, and Jimmy Kimmel. He does address the slap last year, Chris Rock, Will Smith. We have all that for you. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we've seen the headline. Major tech companies laying off. Google, Facebook, Twitter, just to name a few, and tens of thousands have been laid off as a result. On the next Get Wealthy, we take a look at what it means to recession-proof your career in tech. Joining me will be Kanika Tover, and she's going to be sharing exactly what you need to do to turn anxiety into achievement.
Shifting our mindset to thinking that only opportunities exist in big tech is something that we're going to have to shift fast, because there's so many opportunities that are out there that we have to change the way we were thinking about our careers.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
On the next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, just who do you think you are? And maybe more importantly, who is it that you think you're trying to please? The answer to that second question is really wrapped up in the first. Think about that. Being the true, authentic you, no matter the circumstance.
But we learn the art of forgiveness, not only of forgiving one another, but forgiving ourselves. And we also learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other.
That's next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Amber Stevens-West from The Carmichael Show.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, download our app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And, of course, if you're watching the show right now on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button. We want to get as many likes as possible. That impacts the algorithm, which impacts the revenue for the show as well. Don't forget, we also now on Amazon News. That's right. If you got Amazon Fire TV, just go to News, click that, and you can actually pull up our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel. And so we certainly want you to do that. And so support us in all that you can. All right, folks, let's talk about what's going to be happening tomorrow in Oklahoma, where the Black Creek's descendants of the Muskogee Creek Freemen are going to be back in court to reclaim their tribal citizenship rights in the Creek Nation. Demario Solomon Simmons is the lead attorney. He joins us right now. Demario, so bring us up to date, because recently I saw your recent post where the court admonished the tribe for not following the judge's order, correct?
Well, we're hoping the court is going to admonish them tomorrow. They did not follow the judge's order back from February 9th, where they've been running for over 2 years, Roland, to answer the very basic question of how do they believe they can violate Article 2 of the Treaty of 1866. And the judge ordered them on February 9th that they had to answer that question before our trial, which is April 4th, and they refused to do it. So we back in front of the court tomorrow, and we're hoping and asking her to admonish them and to force them to answer the question and sanction them for us having to do additional unnecessary work.
Again, this goes way, way back for folks who don't understand the details of this case. Bring us up to speed. The Cliff Notes.
Yeah, real quick. Absolutely. Just real quickly, I'll say this. From the late 1700s until 1866, members of the Muskogee Creek Nation enslaved African people and Black people, Creeks of African descent. When at the end of the Civil War, or during the Civil War, some of the Creek Nation, they actually signed a treaty with the Confederacy. Obviously, the Confederacy lost, and part of the Confederacy bringing back those states like Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi, they had to adopt the 13th, 14th Amendment, outlaw enslavement, and make their Black citizens, Black individuals citizens. Well, in the Creek Nation, it was the same thing. According to the Treaty of 1866, Article 2, they had to adopt their Black members as citizens. They had to stop enslavement. The Creek Nation adhered to that until 1979. In 1979, they decided they no longer, quote unquote, wanted us Negroes. And therefore, they kicked us out the nation illegally. We've been fighting that ever since. And that's what this trial is about on April 4th. And just imagine this, Roland, everyone that's listening. Just imagine if Georgia or Alabama or Florida or Texas tomorrow said, you know what? We're no longer going to adhere to the 14th Amendment. You Negroes are no longer citizens of the state of Texas. That is what the Creek Nation is doing. It is Confederate members of the Creek Nation who want to keep this white supremacist mentality and keep Creeks of African descent like myself and thousands of other Creeks from having our rightful citizenship and access to millions of dollars in benefits annually.
And when we say benefits, again, explain that to folks who don't understand this history.
Absolutely. And we're talking about over 100, maybe 150,000 Black Creeks that are in this situation. Most based in Oklahoma. We have members throughout the entire nation. And we're talking about benefits like health care, housing, education stipends, cash stipends. So during COVID, Roland, and I know you know this, but during COVID, the Creek Nation received about $2 billion of ARPA funding. And one of the things that they decided to do was to give each individual Creek citizen about $4,500 cash stipend. That meant that over 100,000 Black Creek citizens, or should have been citizens, did not receive that cash stipend. This will make a substantial, tangible difference in the lives of Black Creeks overnight. Overnight, Black Creeks who do not have the ability to get health care would have health care opportunities the very next day. Black Creeks who need housing would have housing the very next day. Black Creeks who need educational opportunities and benefits would have those benefits the next day, both through the Creek Nation and also through the federal government.
Questions from the panel. Renita, you first.
Yeah, so I know looking into this that one of the flashpoints of this issue is how the Muskogee tribe decides who is a part of their tribe. So they are saying that you have to be by blood in order to be a part of their tribe. But recently, the Cherokee Nation, they used to say you had to be by blood, but then recently they changed theirs to say it's not by blood. What happened with the Cherokee Nation that is not, I guess, sort of holding up with the Muskogee tribe? What is the difference?
Well, the two different nations, and the Cherokee Nation decided to follow the law, and the Creek tribe does not want to follow the law. That's the basic answer. Because the Cherokee Nation had the same type of a treaty of 1866. Theirs was Article 9 that said they had to outlaw enslavement and they had to adopt their Black members. But I also want to be clear, in the Creek Nation, which is Article 2, they say Creeks of African descent or Creeks by blood. My family, my great-great-great-grandfather, Cal Tom, also known as Cal Minko, was one of 5 individuals who negotiated and signed the Treaty of 1866. He was not enslaved. He was a Creek, quote unquote, by blood. But because we were put on the Creek Freedmen roll by the United States government in 1906, that said we were all just formerly enslaved Africans, the Creek Nation is now utilizing that racist document that the United States created to disenfranchise and kick off Black people that's like myself, who have a documented heritage of Creek Nation going back centuries. That's a great question.
Julian?
Brother, first of all, thank you for your work here. I don't think we all know how intertwined Black history is with a Native American history and how we were enslaved often by our Native brothers and sisters, but also often they provided us some shelter when we ran away from enslavement. So it's a very mixed history, but it's one that not a lot of people know about. My question is, what's going on with the Bureau of Indian Affairs? I mean, that's a federal agency. Yeah, I know you laughing, right? Okay. But anyway, I want to know if the Bureau of Indian Affairs has any role in this and any enforcement and any of that.
No, I'm laughing, Dr. Malvo, because you always ask the right question. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs could tomorrow, the Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs tomorrow could tell the Creek Nation, you are violating federal law. See, treaties are the supreme law of the land. Treaties are right below the Constitution, right? And so the Bureau of Indian Affairs tomorrow could write a letter to the Creek Nation and say, you are violating the Treaty of 1866, Article 2, and until you adhere to this treaty and you bring in these Black members of your tribe, we will not recognize your government. They could do that tomorrow. So I laugh because you asked the exact right question. And I also want to address what you said first. There were many Native American nations like the Creek Nation that provided leadership, support, and opportunities for Creeks of African descent or runaway enslaved Africans. And it's sad that there is a portion of those members of the nation who cited and wanted to be more European, wanted to have the colonial slave type plantation enslavement economy. And that's what we're still fighting, that mentality. White supremacy, in other words, is still infecting the minds of our own Native brothers and sisters. And I want to be clear about one other thing. The Black Creeks are the co-founders of Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. Black Creeks, so you cannot have justice for Greenwood and justice for the Tulsa Race Massacre without justice for Black Creeks.
All right, Makongo.
So one of the things I found fascinating when I visited the Museum of the American Indian was something I read that said every single treaty that Native groups made with the Europeans were broken in some way, shape, or form. Every single one. So can you speak to the irony of the fact that now you have this Creek Nation on this side not acknowledging a treaty that they made with their own people?
Man, great questions. Absolutely. The hypocrisy is overwhelming, right? In fact, some of the audience may have heard of the McGirt decision. That was a decision that happened a couple of years ago where the Supreme Court ruled that Northeast Oklahoma is still Indian territory. And that was a case that was involving the Muskogee Creek Nation, the same nation we are in court with today. And the Muskogee Creek Nation was making that argument that Article 3 of the Treaty of 1866 was still good law. Therefore, the state of Oklahoma does not have the authority, the jurisdiction to charge criminally Creek Nation citizens. And they argued that successfully all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Yet, when it comes to Article 2 of that same treaty, they want to ignore it. They want to say that does not matter here. And that's why the actions of the Creek Nation is not only illegal, it's not only racist and discriminatory, but it's a threat to all Indian law throughout this entire country, because all the Native American tribes are fighting to uphold their treaties, and the Creek Nation wants to be able to say, well, we are going to decide we're just going to ignore Article 2. And if they're allowed to get away with that, then the United States of America will have the moral opportunity to continue to not do what they're supposed to do for all other Native American tribes. So that's an excellent question.
If folks want to actually just read more about this, is there a website that you guys have where they can go check everything out?
Absolutely. They can go to justiceforblackcreeks.org. That's justiceforblackcreek.org. Or you could go to justiceforgreenwood.org. justiceforgreenwood.org. So like you said, Roland, we have a big hearing tomorrow in Okmulgee, which is about 45 minutes away from Tulsa. That's tomorrow on the 14th. We have a big trial that's scheduled from April 4th to April 7th. We're expecting a large turnout, lots of people coming in from out of town, congressional members. But I want to just reiterate, justiceforblackcreeks.org. We cannot have justice for Greenwood without justice for Black Creeks. So everyone that wants to see a form of justice for Black people, this is a form of reparations, guys. These people enslaved Black folks. They had to stop the enslavement. They had to bring us in as citizens, and they owe us the benefits, and now they're reneging on it. I need everyone to jump in on this. This is a reparations fight for all of us.
All right, DeMario Solomon Simmons, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, Roland.
Folks, when we come back, Angela Bassett, Ruth Carter, Jimmy Kimmel talks about the slap. We'll show you what took place yesterday at the 95th Academy Awards. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Download our app, Apple phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Bring the Fuck fan club. Your dollars make it possible to do what we do. Folks, we literally have to raise about $100,000 each month from our fan base. And so when you give, trust me, it is making all that we do possible. Not just my show, but the other shows that we have on the Black Star Network, the 24-hour streaming channel, our OTT platform. We got some great things happening. I'm actually here in New York meeting with ad agencies, trying to unlock those dollars. And so we're doing the best that we can to build this Black News and Information Network. Please, folks, send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We featured the brand new work of Professor Angie Porter, which, simply put, is a revolutionary reframing of the African experience in this country. It's the one legal article everyone, and I mean everyone, should read. Professor Porter and Dr. Valeethia Watkins, our legal roundtable team, join us to explore the paper that I guarantee is going to prompt a major aha moment in our culture.
You crystallize it by saying, who are we to other people? Who are African people to others? Governance is our thing. Who are we to each other? the structures we create for ourselves, how we order the universe as African people.
That's next on the Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, last night was the 95th Annual Academy Awards, and many people, of course, were tuning in to see how Jimmy Kimmel would address last year's slap, Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. Well, this is how he did it.
We want you to have fun, we want you to feel safe, and most importantly, we want me to feel safe. So we have strict policies in place. If anyone in this theater commits an act of violence at any point during the show, you will be awarded the Oscar for Best Actor and permitted to give a 19-minute long speech. No, but seriously, the Academy has a crisis team in place. If anything unpredictable or violent happens during the ceremony, just do what you did last year. Nothing. Sit there and do absolutely nothing. Maybe even give the assailant a hug. And if any of you get mad at a joke and decide you want to come up here and get jiggy with it, it's not going to be easy. There are a few of my friends you're going to have to get through first. You're going to have to get through the heavyweight champ, Adonis Creed, before you get to me. You're going to have to do battle with Michelle Yeoh before you get to me. You are going to have to beat the Mandalorian before you get to me. You are going to have to tangle with Spider-Man. You are going to have to... You are going to have to tangle with Fableman. And then you're going to have to go through my right-hand man, Guillermo, if you want to get up to this stage. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, I should say... The other Guillermo, not Del Toro. Yes, that one. Okay, there you go. I know he's cute, but make no mistake, you even so much as wave at me, that sweet little man will beat the Lydia tar out of you, okay?
All right, then. Makongo, what did you make of that way to address it? Also, at the end, of course, they had a sign that said... consecutive Oscars free of any incidents. They had like 001. Thought that was pretty fun as well. I mean, so, you know, they tastefully dealt with it. But, of course, a comedian is going to make jokes.
Most definitely, just like we talked about last week with selective outrage. And, you know, I know that there are some people who felt like it should have been left alone, but he didn't do it in a way that trashed Will Smith or anything like that. And how can you not get up there and address it? And so I thought it was hilarious, to be quite honest. I mean, Fableman, I thought that was great. And so really at the end of the day, people were wondering what the Oscars was going to do because quite honestly, like he said, a lot of, no one did anything last year. And the Oscars took forever to make a statement. They took forever to issue any types of punishments. And I know people wanted to move on, but sometimes the way to move on is to kind of have something that's kind of cathartic for everybody who's there and who witnessed it, and people in the audience witnessed it, and we witnessed it all at home. And so I think he kind of put a nail in it finally and just keep it moving.
I agree. All right, y'all. So many were watching the Best Supporting Actress category, hoping to see Angela Bassett win it for Black Panther 2. Well, this was her reaction when the winner was named.
And the Oscar goes to
Jamie Lee Curtis!
Jamie Lee Curtis made her big screen debut in the horror classic Halloween.
All right, so here's the deal, Renita. The movie that Jamie Lee Curtis won for, of course, took home 7 Oscars last night, and she won Best Supporting Actress. This is the daughter of actor Tony Curtis, Janet Leigh. She mentioned both of them. Both of them were nominated for Oscars as well. And for people who have not been following this award season, it really has been in this category at the major awards. You talk about the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, the BAFTA, the People's Choice Awards, Critics' Choice, that actually Jamie Lee Curtis, Angela Bassett, and Stephanie Sue, who was also in the same movie with Jamie Lee Curtis, they've been sort of like winning. So there was no one runaway favorite in this category. And so a lot of black people are like, oh my God, she got screwed, or she got messed over by the Academy. But really, it was a toss-up based upon how all the other major awards have been going.
Right. I mean, but, obviously we all were pulling for Angela Bassett to walk away with this award, especially after getting other historic awards for Marvel movies. And so it was a disappointment to a lot of folks, including myself. But what really made me mad about the whole incident was people trying to police Angela Bassett's emotions. People are online are talking about how, she was wrong to sit down when Jamie Lee Curtis's name was called, the look on her face. Why didn't she stand up and clap? People are saying this when they have not walked a mile in most black women have not walked a mile in most black women's shoes in this country. When you are over 18 and you've been in the workplace, you've had some portion of life experience, you quickly find that, frequently black women's work is erased and we are not awarded for the things that we do great. And so likely her reaction had nothing to do with Jamie Lee Curtis, but it was probably just a continuation of, I'm sure she's experienced, like any other black woman has experienced, continually being looked over. And so to me, that is what I thought was even more damaging, was the continuation of trying to police her behavior and now come at her a certain way because she was obviously disappointed that she did not win this award. That's her right to be disappointed, and nobody should be trying to police how she responds to that.
Well, first off, Julian, I went to go see Creed 3 last night, so I actually saw this category on my DVR. So I watched the whole segment. Now, did Angela Bassett eventually stand up? Yes, she did. Now, when Jamie Lee Curtis finished her speech, did Angela Bassett clap? No, she didn't. But the bottom line is that you can react any way you want to react. As I said, this was a category where, again, you had different winners at the different major awards. So this wasn't like Jamie Foxx with Ray, or it wasn't like Forrest Whitaker when he played Idi Amin in The Last King of Scotland, where they won every single award show. It was a foregone conclusion. That wasn't the case. But your thoughts on, again, some folks being a little bit perturbed that she did not win, but also those perturbed at her, some saying she was not gracious in congratulating Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, I basically agree with what Renita said about people trying to police her reactions. She is a human being who was probably clearly disappointed. And I don't know what showed on her face because I wasn't looking at it that carefully. I was disappointed for her because a lot of us thought she should have won it. But Jamie Lee Curtis is also a really great actress. Quite frankly, she's one of my faves if among the melanin deficient. So from that perspective, this is all political. Who gets to vote? We don't know who voted. I just think Angela Bassett rocks. She totally rocked. She rocked in Wakanda. She rocked in the second one. Ain't nobody tripping, and she's not tripping either. She, quite frankly, she got an NAACP Image Award, Roland. As you know, I think you were there. She got an Image Award, and she said it was meaningful for her to get something for her people. So, get it from the other people. It would have been nice. There will be other opportunities, but I'm just an Angie Bassett fan and just cheer her on and think this sort of micro policing is unacceptable. The woman didn't smile. She didn't stand up. Whatever. I mean, if you went pan the audience, there's some other people who didn't stand up. There's some other people who didn't clap. It's not required. Her feet could have been hurt. I mean, I go to awards shows all the time. Enough.
Oma Congo, she won Best Supporting Actress at the Image Awards. Plus, she also won Entertainer of the Year. But like I said, you've had all these different reactions to what took place. Your thoughts?
I feel like people are basically looking at this as like Will Smith, Chris Rock round 2 or something like that in terms of making this such a huge deal. That was a big deal, what happened last year. This is a woman, look, I know Dr. Malvo said that, she's a human being like anyone else, but in our community, damn it, she's the queen. And we hold her in such high regard that everything that both Dr. Malvo and Renita were saying were true. She does nothing to disrespect the game of acting in Hollywood or anything like that. She has always been regal in everything that she does. And so really at the end of the day, if people want to pay more attention to her than everything else that was going on, it shows how petty they are. But as our sisters have said on this panel, Black women are used to it. So I know she's not paying it any mind, but we really got to do better. She put in the work. I didn't see the other movies, so I can't speak to them. I know that she gave an Oscar-worthy performance at the end of the day. And like we all said, the NAACP Image Award, at least particularly at this point in time with everything we're dealing with, it's really more important to me than the Oscars right now. But Angela Bassett does not disrespect the game of Hollywood in any way, shape, or form. Leave her alone and put some respect on her name.
Well, also keep in mind, and Jimmy Kimmel, I appreciate that he actually did this last night. He acknowledged from the stage that Danielle Detweiler, who was, of course, the lead actress in Till, and he also mentioned Viola Davis in The Woman King. Both of those women were not nominated. Both of those movies were not nominated. And he said those were movies that were worthy of people watching and also being rewarded. I thought Detweiler gave an unbelievable performance. I absolutely believed that she had earned a Best Actress nod as well for that movie, playing Mamie Till Mobley. But again, this is what happens when you have these award shows. These things happen all the time. All right, folks, history was made last night when Hampton University's Ruth Carter became the first Black woman to win 2 Oscars when she won for Best Costume Design for Black Panther 2. She, of course, won it for the first Black Panther, and it was bittersweet for her when she told everyone this in her acceptance speech.
Nice to see you again. Thank you to the Academy for recognizing the superhero that is a Black woman. She endures, she loves, she overcomes. She is every woman in this film. She is my mother. This past week, Mabel Carter became an ancestor. This film prepared me for this moment. Chadwick, please take care of Mom. Ryan Coogler, Nate Moore, thank you both for your vision. Together, we are reshaping how culture is represented. The Marvel family, Kevin Feige, Victoria Alonso, Louis D'Esposito, and their arsenal of genius. Thank you. I share this with many dedicated artists whose hands and hearts helped manifest the costumes of Wakanda and Tolakan. This is for my mother. She was 101.
Ruth Carter, again, makes history, and folks, she got her start doing Spike Lee's movies. And when you go back and look at Mo Better Blues, you look at Malcolm X, look at all of those different movies, she was the costume designer there, Coming to America too as well. So she is absolutely a legend in Hollywood, which is why when she won last night, even when she won a couple of years ago for Black Panther, everyone stood up to acknowledge her greatness. And so congratulations, Ruth Carter. on winning your second Oscar as well. And yes, she also won Best Costume Design at the NAACP Image Awards as well. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back, we'll talk nutrition, the impact on improving your health by what you eat. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
A lot of these corporations or people that are running stuff push black people if they're doing a certain thing. What that does is it creates a butterfly effect of any young kid who, wants to leave any situation they're in, and the only people they see are people that are doing this. So I gotta be a gangster, I gotta shoot, I gotta sell, I gotta do this in order to do it. And it just becomes a cycle. But when someone comes around and is making we don't, they don't want to push it or put money into it. So that's definitely something I'm trying to fix too, is just show there's other avenues. You don't gotta be a rapper, you don't gotta be a ball player, you can be a country singer, you can be an opera singer, you can be a damn whatever, showing the different avenues. And that is possible, and it's hard for people to realize it's possible until someone does it.
Next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Just who do you think you are? And maybe more importantly, who is it that you think you're trying to please? The answer to that second question is really wrapped up in the first. Think about that. Being the true, authentic you, no matter the circumstance.
But we learn the art of forgiveness, not only of forgiving one another, but forgiving ourselves. And we also learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other.
That's next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Vivian Green.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, nutrition is a huge part when it comes to wellness. And, of course, many folks we've had on the show talked about not wanting people to be so wedded to having to take medicine. How about doing things the natural way? Jessie Thompson is my next guest. She's the author of the new gynecologist recommended book, In Fibroids Manual and Guide. She also has been very much focused on how what we eat can heal the body. Glad to have you back on the show. And so we talk about what you can eat to heal the body. Explain that.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Roland. Food is our medicine, no question. It is literally what we consume every day is actually healing our body or it's harming our body. So it's very important for us to make choices that actually help the body support its natural detoxification function. The body is a masterpiece. It is created to detoxify. Of course, there are sources of toxins all over, from the air to the food that we eat, et cetera, because not all the food that we eat is healthy. The stress is a major factor, especially for us as people of color, Black people specifically, in the trauma of racism. So what's happening is the body's natural detox function, which is the involuntary process by which the body rids itself of toxins through perspiration, respiration, urination, defecation, using our 4 vital organs, the skin, our largest organ, the liver, the lungs, the kidney, and then the digestive system and the lymphatic system. What happens when our body is overrun with toxins? It starts to now disrupt the body's ability to detoxify properly, and then we have to start to have an intervention and some people will do diet, some people will do fasting specifically to help reset the body and hopefully start a healthy lifestyle that is, we say, prevention is the cure.
And so one of the things that doctors always talk about is that when we talk about obesity, that's inflammation.
That's right.
and what we eat can either help or hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a critical thing. In fact, we created this whole anti-inflammatory food list just so people, because some people think just because something is a vegetable, for instance, if I fry it, it's still a vegetable, right? But inflammation is actually something that our body, it's a natural process where the body starts to fight off disease. However, when the body is in a radical state of inflammation because of too much cortisol, because of too many times, what happens is now the body starts to give birth to actual disease, inflammation, where it's radical in the body nonstop. It actually creates, it's the root of so many conditions, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, fibroids, so many diseases. So for us, food is literally our first defense. It's to actually, of course, stress, minimize our stress, but then the food, using our food, which are anti-inflammatory foods that help to reduce inflammation in the body, such as cruciferous vegetables, right? Making that like broccoli and cabbage and bok choy and things like arugula, making greens a part of every meal that you have is helping use foods to fight inflammation in the body, as well as, antioxidants in berries like blueberries and raspberries. Those are so great for the gut, helping the body. Again, remember we talked about the detoxification function. The digestive system plays a major role. So eating foods that help your gut, eating foods that have high selenium, like Brazil nuts that are great for your liver, another major detox organ. So using your food to actually power your vital organs so that your body can sustain an actual lifestyle of healing.
Questions from the panel. Makongo, you first.
Yeah, I only had 3 cookies today. I was regretting it before you came on, but now I'm like really regretting it. It was a little splurge. But one of the chat questions I have for you is, what advice do you give to those of us who live in communities that might be food deserts, or where they may have organic sections that are starting to come into some of our stores? They're still expensive. What kind of tips do you give for those of us who live in that part of our community who want to make better food choices but are limited because of what's around them or budget?
Very good question. Number one, go to the detoxnow.com right now and download our free food list. Because what we did in our free food list is we listed out what foods are anti-inflammatory, what foods are good for you to now substitute in your regular diet. And also knowing the clean 15 and the dirty dozen is really important, because guess what? In certain foods, there's a rating every year they put out what foods are actually, the way that they're farmed, they maintain the purity of the food, such as cantaloupes, right? Such as melons. The thickness of the skin is such that the meat of the food, the meat of the melons are actually, they don't have to be organic because they're still clean. But then you have certain foods that are part of the dirty dozen where those foods, you really need them to be organic. And I'm going to come back to that, such as apples and pears and berries, right? Because so harmful because of the pesticides on them. So in food deserts, number one, you want to know, what are your go-to anywhere I can go right now? Like, I know if I'm going somewhere, mangoes are on the clean 15 list. Avocados are on the clean 15 list, right? Cantaloupes and honeydew, those kind of things. And then specifically, I would get things like, either you can clean them with white vinegar or baking soda in water, soak them. You want to do an extra job of actually cleaning them. That helps to actually, make them less harmful for you. And then, so you'll use the cleaning agents I like to soak them. I use food grade hydrogen peroxide with distilled water. I make a mix of that, 11 ounces of distilled water with 1 ounce of hydrogen food grade peroxide. I use it as my vegetable cleaner, and I will clean all my veggies. So now you may not be able to get organic everything. Try to get as much as you can organic, but then clean it so that you give yourself a better chance of having healthier foods. And again, the reason we did the free food list is you may not be ready to, because what happens is when you find that, you'll see signs that your body is dealing with those toxins. So those 3 cookies, okay, you had them today, but are you having 3 cookies every day, right? Are you having them with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? These are things that now you'll start to see signs that your body is slowing down. You'll see weight start to kind of settle. You'll start to see that you feel tired a lot. These are signs that your body's detoxification function is actually being impaired. It's being compromised. And maybe it's time to reset. And for us, that was a major thing. That's why we created these fasts, these detoxes for people to help reset their functions, right? For instance, there's a woman who posted this week, in fact, we shared her testimony today, that she has been taking allergy meds for 20 years, right? And she did our fruit fast, and she's on day 8 of our fruits, which is just specific fruits and the herbal supplements that are used to support the body in resetting during this fast, right? This healing fast. And by day 8, she's completely off of all of the allergy meds that she's been taking for 20 years. So we know the body knows how to heal itself. We know that detoxification is a natural function, and using those specific foods, right, and the herbal supplementation, she was able to completely reverse that process in her body.
Renita.
Yes, thank you for coming on today. Just a quick question. Are there any foods that the public generally thinks are healthy, but in your personal opinion, there's just never any ever good reason to eat them?
So many. One that's really popular is wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is like in these high-end places, oh, get your wheatgrass shot. But it's actually very harmful to your gut because it's created, you need 4 stomachs to digest it. It's for animals. It's for like cows, right? Large mammals. And people will consume it like it's for us, and it really can do damage. That's kind of one of them. Another one that it really depends, and this is specifically for my sisters out there, flax seeds. So flax seeds can have beneficial properties for women who may be in perimenopause or menopause because their estrogen is low, right? Because estrogen they need support building their estrogen during that time frame. But if you are not in perimenopause or menopause and you're just in your childbearing years, flaxseed can actually lead to estrogen dominance, too much consumption of that because of how estrogenic it is. And that can cause hormonal imbalance. And that's not just for women. I led to that because of the perimenopause, but with men, you can see things like development of man breasts, as well as, baldness, or lose hair, things like that. So in other words, it can get those same inflammatory responses in different ways.
Wow, thank you.
Julian, I literally have I got 40 seconds. So a question, quick answer, go.
You've talked about reset a couple of times. How long does someone have to change their diet, or what must one do to reset? You've seen this slowness, you've seen these things. How do you reset?
So fasting is one of the most powerful ways to reset. That's why, we offer free group consults to help everybody determine which fast is the best one for them, because there's intermittent fasting, there's fruit fasting, there's water fasting. So I don't want everybody to just think any fast is right for me, but a fast is great because that voluntary process allows your vital organs to rest, to then now be able to restore their function with the right setting. And we've seen everything from people get off high blood pressure meds with our water fast. Taj, in fact, from SWE, has a powerful testimony of being on our water fast, and she uses it on a regular basis, twice a year, every 6 months or so she does it. And so definitely, we invite you to book a free group consult so that you can find out the right one for you at the Detox Now.
All right.
.com.
Jesse, thanks a lot. Folks, we have the information right there on how to reach you. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me. Nutrition is your medicine.
Renita. All right. Renita Omakongo, Julian, thank you so very much, folks. That's it for us. I've got to go. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, download our app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And, of course, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Send check-in money orders. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I will see you tomorrow. Holla!
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no!
punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.